what can get your Bronco sooner and what can keep your Bronco held back for months? Well, I'm going to cover just that today in today's video. So I'm Johnny from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. No co-host Winston because, well, it is super early. It's before his wake up time. And the reason I'm bringing this to you, making this video quite early is because we've got a deadline. July 29th is a deadline that Ford has given us to change our Bronco orders. Now, is this going to be a permanent deadline or is this just a deadline for September builds? I believe for now it's just for September builds, but very soon I think they're going to hunker down and say, look, we need to get your final builds so that they can work on getting all the supply and demand right. So they need to be able to work on the correct issues. In other words, they need to know what the demand is. So that's exactly what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be covering demand versus capacity. In other words, we're going to be covering a little list that's going to be on the side, either left or right here. Probably switching back and forth. So we're going to be going through that list one by one to help you get the right Bronco build. So this is either for those that haven't ordered yet and want to get a Bronco as soon as possible, because these issues that exist with supply are getting worked on, but they're going to continue to exist. Now, of course, things are going to get better as long as we don't have more, global health issues. Hopefully that's all over with. But these are the supply issues, and you need to modify your Bronco if you want to get it sooner, or you just need to order up. If you don't have a Bronco on order yet and you are ordering a Bronco, well, if you don't want to have really huge time constraints, this is the list you need to be paying attention to. So let's go through it one by one. Let's put the pedal to the metal and jump right in. So first of all, if you're looking to shop for a base model, you're in the clear, because on the list here, if anything's in positive, so let's say the base model, it has positive 3 points. That means you're safe. You're above zero. They're able to build it. They don't have issues. Now, of course, this is a demand versus capacity, or what supplies they have for September. But these issues are going to get worked on, but continue to persist. So Big Ben, positive 20 points. That means they have absolutely no issues building Big Bens, as long as you're conscious of further down the list, the things that you might add to your Big Bend, because you could still get a Big Bend, which has positive 20 points, meaning it is easy. They're ready to build that. But if you go along with, let's say, a paint protection film, which is at negative 5 points, so the brackets are to say that it's negative points, your Big Bend being the easiest model for them to build, quinky dink, that's what we got at the dealership. Someone who jumped way up the list got their Big Bend delivered. So, well, they didn't jump up way up the list, but they definitely skipped 3 or 4 people. So if you ask for paint protection on that Big Bend, it's going to get held back because they don't have the paint protection film in enough supply at the factory, and it's not technically, with how factories work, it's not coming in quick enough on a regular basis. So they don't have enough, really, to put it simply. And this is what I've been saying for months now. I've been saying, don't add unneeded accessories to your vehicle. Get them at the parts department once your Bronco shows up. This is how I got how I'm going to be getting my Bronco built August 25th. I really did move up quite a bit up of the list. I probably jumped about 6 to 8 spots. And part of the reason for that is I removed the hitch and I didn't take any accessories. I'll get that through my parts department at my local Ford dealership. Now let's continue down the list. Black Diamond. If you're thinking of getting a Black Diamond, well, this one so far, as long as everyone doesn't switch over to a Black Diamond, which I doubt they cancel a Wild Track and turn it into a Black Diamond anyways, they'd probably go for a Badlands, but that's on the fence. It's at +1, so they have just enough of everything to make Black Diamonds. Now, this doesn't mean any Black Diamond, or same thing for the Outer Banks. Outer Banks is at +2, and it doesn't mean any Outer Banks, because if you throw on, Lux Package, which has negative 21 points, and on top of that, you throw on a trailer tow hitch at negative 25 points, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And we all know it's pretty hard to walk forward when you've shot yourself in the foot. So that's going to give you a whole bunch of negative points. In other words, the more negative points you have on your build, the less likely you are to get build, because if they don't have the parts, they don't stop the factory and say, you know, Billy Bronco or Johnny Bronco doesn't have his Bronco yet, and you know, he's making videos on YouTube. Let's stop the factory and wait until we can build his Bronco. Heck no, they don't care about Johnny Bronco. They just want to build Broncos as fast as possible. They want to get them out, and you know, if you haven't seen my review on the Big Ben that we received, that thing is assembled amazingly. People at the Michigan assembly plant, the individuals over there are doing amazing work. All the gapping was just perfect. Everything was evenly gapped. The vehicle's extremely well put together. The top wasn't quite perfect. That'll get fixed at dealership. Webasto, I think, is pumping up tops a little faster than they can really handle, but at least they're getting them on the vehicles. They're getting them to the dealership, and really the problem that's with that top is getting resolved as we speak. So it's an issue that'll be resolved within an hour or two of work. So let's continue down the list. Really, whether you go Outer Banks at +2 or a Badlands at +4, you're fine with a Badlands. And I know there was talk about, you know, a while back saying if you wanted a Badlands, it could really slow things down. Well, here's the proof. You can order a Badlands, you're at +4 points. It's in the clear. What really is the issue is the Wild Track at -13 points. Now, why is that? Well, the Wild Track has some of the things on the later down on the list that hold things up. Now let's look at body style. You're definitely going to be getting your 4-door Sooner, and if you modify your order to a 4-door, you're much more likely, and this will happen, you're going to jump ahead of people who have stayed on, let's say, a Wild Track 2-door. So the 2-door, obviously the issue is the molded in color top. It's at -9 points. Now, some people have said, you know, why don't they just reserve all the tops for 2-doors? Well, they haven't completely done that, but when we look at molded in color hardtops being at -35 points, you can definitely see that Ford has attributed a lot of the hardtops to the 2-door model. So having a 2-door model doesn't mean you're going to get built in 2022. It doesn't mean, you know, it doesn't mean you're going to have absolutely crazy delays. It might now if you ordered at a dealer where your allotment 200 and you know they're only getting 100 units for 2021 or 150 units for 2021, well then your delay is just based on the dealer you chose and how many Broncos they had already picked up, how many Bronco reservations that had already picked up versus the allotments. Now just a reminder, I've talked about this for the last 7 months. Allotments are the number of units that a dealership gets promised by Ford. So it's the number of units that get built for that dealership. I've been saying for 6-7 months, shop your dealership. I've been told now it's mostly calmed down, but for the first 3 months or so, I was being told I was crazy, and that's not how things worked. They purely worked on your time reservation stamp, and that's completely not the case. I hope everyone's seen that by now, and I hope people are starting to trust me because I've been trying to help you all along. I really want to get people their Broncos. My goal is to be helpful with this channel, but let's get right back to the list. So if you're wondering about allotments, you can get more of that in my previous videos. I don't want to turn this into a 25-minute video, so I'm going to just jump right back in. Let's go down into powertrains now. So for powertrains, the automatic transmission, +2, so no issues if you want an automatic transmission. The manual transmission, +5, no issues there either. The 2.3 liter, okay, here's some good news. The 2.3 liter is a great engine. It's reliable. It works amazingly in the Ford Explorer. It goes great in the Ranger. It's got tons of power. You know, look back at 80s and 90s V8s. This thing has a ton of power if compared to a 90s V8. Heck, my Mustang GT stock had about 215 horsepower. This has about, you know, off the top of my head, about 300 horsepower. So had 270, you put in the high octane gas, you're gonna get 300 horsepower. So way faster than a V8 from the mid 90s. And it's +32 points, so who's gonna be willing to switch to a 2.3 liter? Well, I wasn't, and I just got lucky because my build is August 25th. I ordered back in mid-February, but I kind of made myself a perfect build. except for the 2.7 liter engine. This one hurts, minus 24 points. So that means people who do switch to a 2.3 liter, who do follow the right formula, are gonna jump way ahead of the list, because 70%, I believe it's 70% of Bronco orders are for 2.7 liters. Now, if that recollection, and please, comment section, we're a community here, help me out. If anyone has the exact percentage, I can't find it. It's somewhere hidden deep into all my photos, but there is a higher take on the 2.7 liter. So if a whole lot of people choose to stay 2.7 liter, or if you order a 2.7 liter now, realize that you're definitely going to be facing more delays than someone who orders a 2.3 liter. And if you switch to a 2.3 liter, simply put, you're getting your Bronco faster than the people. You're going to jump ahead of all those 2.7 liters that are ahead of you. Not completely all of them, because the factory is still getting some 2.7 liters. Having a negative point score of 24 doesn't mean the factory's not getting any 2.7 liters. It just means that there's way more demand versus capacity, or versus supply. So a few 2.7 liters will get picked up, but a whole lot of 2.3 liters are going to jump way ahead of their dealer's allotment list, despite whatever reservation timestamp they may have. Now let's continue. Let's go to roofs. I've been saying this for, I think, since very early June, late May. I've been saying soft top issue. There was a small one in early May or late April. They worked out the soft top issue. Now they've got plenty of soft tops, plus 35. However, for hard tops, negative 35 points, meaning most people want a molded in color hard top. And guess what? There are not nearly enough molded in color hard tops. So we've got a real issue there. Now remember, black painted roof, the reason that says positive and 0 is because, well, they're not building any this year. And they're not building any molded in color hard tops and soft tops. So if you have an order where you wanted dual tops, that's not happening this year. So if you switch, your build's probably gonna happen this year. Now, black painted hard top and soft top, that's the other dual top. That's definitely not happening this year either. Really, it looks like they're going to be building the painted tops for 2023. Now, please keep in mind that very soon, Ford's probably going to have to buckle down, and it might be end of August as the deadline, and say you have until, let's say, just an example, August 28th. To get your final order in. Now, why would they do that? It only makes sense if they want to be able to book out all of October and November all in one shot, which I think will make a whole lot of customers happy to at least know if they're getting built this year. They're going to need to know what their supply and demand is. So they're going to need to tell people, put in your final orders. Now, in the meantime, let's just look at those key options and what you can maybe drop from your list based on availability. So the Sasquatch package, it's pretty rare. It's not extremely rare, but it's got negative 15 points, meaning that the demand is much higher than the possible supply for September. Now, this means that if you hold on, you're going to get pushed either October or November. And if it continues, for more serious issues, for example, the trailer tow hitch is actually at negative 25 points. And that means you could even get pushed to late February or January build, which would make your Bronco a 2022 Bronco, because they're going to be pumping out Broncos for 2021 until the end of November. Now, the front E-locker, that's your electronic locker for your differential, that is at negative 23 points. So it's a bit of an issue, and it's probably part of the reason why, for example, your Big Bend is at positive 20 points. It doesn't have any constraints, the Big Bend model. Let's continue. Your trailer tow hitch with its negative 25 points. I've mentioned this before in previous videos, so I'm going to go over this really quickly. Ford's 2021 towing guide can easily be found with a Google search, and I hope this helps you out. You can go get the proof yourself, but if you Google search Ford's 2021 towing guide, you can find the Bronco in there, and it says it can tow 3,500 pounds. Now, if that was only with a factory installed hitch, Ford has always, traditionally and historically, always in their towing guide, put a little asterisk, and that little asterisk says with factory installed hitch. What that means is there have been models in the past, for example, a Ford Escape. A Ford Escape traditionally has always needed a factory installed hitch. Otherwise, the radiator was smaller and it didn't have the additional transmission cooler to allow you to pull the 3,500 pounds that a 2-liter turbo allows you to pull if it's with a factory installed hitch. Otherwise, depending on the year, it'd be 1,500 pounds or 2,000 pounds. Now the Bronco doesn't have this asterisk. I went to the parts department, I verified there are no, different radiators for the Bronco. There's also no Bronco, from the schematics, there wasn't a Bronco with or without transmission oil cooler. So I couldn't find any evidence whatsoever to indicate that an aftermarket hitch, or really go to your Ford store, go down to your parts department and just get a hitch once your Bronco comes in. And this way, if you want just the hitch, great. If you want all the wiring, well, if you want all the wiring and the hitch, it's going to come out a little more expensive than what it would have at factory, because when Ford throws on a hitch with wiring at a dealership, the dealership's required to plug that wiring into the front computer. They can't do what some aftermarket stores will do, and that's just take that wiring, splice into the rear light wiring, and just have power sent to the hitch from your rear light. The reason Ford doesn't want that occurring is because if your light burns out, it's going to be because of your hitch. It's going to be because of that little splice wiring job, that little stolen electricity from that back light, and they're not going to cover that under warranty. So Ford store has to run the wiring all the way to the front. It takes hours. It ends up being about a 4 or 5 hour job. And of course, while you're paying for labor. Right back into that list. Brush guard, safari bar. I think now it's been months I've been saying accessories. Don't add them to your Bronco if you want your Bronco sooner. And I'm saying this in my Maverick videos now. Why take the chance of having accessories hold back your Bronco for maybe 1 month? But heck, maybe it holds your Bronco back for 4 or 5 months. So if you currently have a safari bar, real simple, drop it now. Order it from your parts department, and yeah, it might come in a little late, but I think you're better off probably having your Bronco and driving and enjoying your Bronco without a safari bar than having it delayed by 3 months. But it's only -9 points, so it's not extremely rare. It's just a little bit rare. It could push you back an extra month or two. The modular front bumper. Real issue here, -24 points. Just a reminder, the aftermarket is gonna have some awesome front bumpers. So why not just go with, let's say you're looking at a Black Diamond, Big Ben, Outer Banks, whatever it may be. Just go with the stock bumper if you want your Bronco sooner and get an awesome aftermarket bumper. Heck, your Bronco's gonna have a unique look. There's gonna be some awesome options in regards to utility, off-road utility, and there's also just going to be some really cool looking options for front bumpers on the Bronco. And this is modular, so it's not going to be a big deal changing bumpers on your Bronco. Now, looking at the Lux package, this is a bit of a tough one. The Lux package, -21 points. I would have loved the Lux package on my Badlands, and it would not have cost very much. I'm going to keep my Bronco, hopefully switch it for another Bronco after 1 year. I wanted that big screen, and on a lease it would have cost next to nothing. Maybe, a few $100s for my lease during the first year. But the Lux package has the big screen, and it will hold back your Bronco. Will the aftermarket make a touchscreen that's that nice? I highly doubt it. Will the aftermarket make a touchscreen that also makes it pretty easy to have a front camera? I also highly doubt it. So that's a bit of an issue. You might want to hold off if these things are really important to you and you plan on keeping your Bronco for a really long time. Just keep in mind, big touchscreens cost big dollars to replace if ever it does break. So that's something to consider if you're keeping your Bronco long term. And if you're not keeping your Bronco long term because you're thinking you want to flip Broncos every year or two, well, if you have an 8-inch screen for your first year or two, it's not that big of a deal. But don't count on the aftermarket coming up with a solution that's as good as Ford's big touchscreen with that front camera. You can't get really anything better for off-roading than that front camera on that big old screen. It looks fantastic. everyone's going to be happy with it, but you will have to wait for it. This will, people that have, you could say, more buildable Broncos, which just means they have, their build actually has the parts for it, they're going to pass your Bronco ahead. Despite time reservation, you're going to pass ahead people who have an allotment. Let's say that their reservation number 10 at their dealer and your number 18. You might jump, or even 20, you might jump 10 or 20 Bronco builds ahead because you have a 4-door, soft top, big bend, or even a Badlands at +4 points. And you could have an awesome Bronco sitting in your yard months earlier. Do keep in mind that I am expecting that by January or February that Michigan assembly plant should be pumping out 600 to 900 Broncos per day. So let's really hope that Webasto, which is currently pumping out 100 tops, and even if they doubled that, right now they're pumping out about 100 tops, and there's a little bit of issues with the tops. They're not perfect. A lot of that gets resolved at the dealership from what I can already see. But let's just really hope that they lease or buy that second factory and start pumping out more tops. But here's another aftermarket solution. Real simple. Take a soft top. The soft top looks really good. It's super convenient for throwing back your top. It looks great with the top down. I've got videos of that. And the aftermarket is going to make some awesome tops. You're going to have the choice probably in the aftermarket to have, plastic all the way through. Maybe someone will make a fiberglass one, which would be, pretty rough and tough. I'd prefer plastic all the way through because fiberglass, keep in mind, will be heavy. But we're going to have some really good looking top options from the aftermarket. And I expect that some top companies are going to build tops that they're going to market as being plastic all the way through, marketing it as something that's more solid and off-road worthy. So these are options for what you can do to either order now your Bronco and order it right. And by right, I just mean in a way in which you can get it sooner, or to modify your Bronco. Now, if your dealership tries to tell you that your Bronco cannot be modified, that they can't touch your order, they better have a build date for you and a serial number. Because if they don't, they just don't want to switch your build. And if that's the case, call Ford's customer hotline number, let them know. And if Ford gets enough of these calls, let's hope that Ford puts the power back into our court, or the ball back in our court, and allows us to switch dealerships. Because in switching dealerships, that would, give us the power, a bit of power of negotiation, and could maybe resolve all this, dealerships trying to sell Broncos over, $25,000 over, not allowing people who already have a reservation and waiting on their Bronco to, buy the Bronco that comes in and that has been canceled by the original reservation holder. Well, some dealers, you go up to them and you say, hey, I'd love to switch my current reservation, take my reservation, do what you want with it, but I want that Bronco. And they're still selling it or telling you that it's going to be $10,000, $15,000, even $25,000 over MSRP. In my opinion, that should be a Bronco that's offered to that patient reservation holder at MSRP, the window sticker price. And if we had the power to switch dealerships, if enough people would come in with their reservations, reservation sheet saying, I want that Bronco, and the answer is no, it's $25,000 more, and they could switch dealerships, well, dealerships would have to pick between making a ton of money on 1 or 2 Broncos or maybe losing 20 reservations. I think they'd pick the reservations and they'd allow that Bronco to go off with one of the reservation holders. Now, the good news is the Big Bend that I reviewed the other day, that's pretty cool. It was a canceled order, but all the reservation holders, the patient people, were offered that Bronco. So couldn't be more fair than that. Really pleased with how that turned out. I'm going to wait for my Badlands because I really want that extra off-road suspension. In the meantime, I hope this list has been helpful. It's definitely the key to either correctly ordering your Bronco or modifying your Bronco list so that you can get your Bronco sooner. Really hope it's been helpful. In the meantime, I hope You all get to put the pedal to the metal this week, and I wish you all more cars and more power. Do you want to go for a Mustang ride? Yeah, you're gone? Gonna go for a Mustang ride without me? Okay. You ready for your Mustang ride, Winston? Yeah, top down? Yeah, let's get going, eh? You ready? You ready? You ready to drive, Winston? Yeah? You wanna go?